Just a little bit there, please. Thank you, Eric. Okay, so without further ado, welcome to the December edition of the Ottawa Centre of the Royal Astronomical Society's monthly meeting. I'm Bill Wagstaff. I'll be your meeting chair or host tonight. I welcome all members and also visitors. You don't need to be a member to attend these meetings. We welcome everyone, but of course we'd love you to become a member. Helps us in dealing with the rest of the RASC and asserting the will of Ottawa upon the rest of the country. So very important thing there. All right, so one of the great pleasures in doing the job of the meeting chair is you get to pick out a couple of awards that are traditionally handed out this time of year. The first of them is the Paul Commission Observer of the Year Award, and no, we don't give that to Paul Commission. It's actually Paul, I believe, contributed towards creating a perpetual award quite some time ago, and we're continuing this onward. So the way the selection is done for this is every person who submits an image or a sketch or any other material for display during the observations section of the meetings is automatically entered into the selection for the Observer of the Award. But as well as that, members are invited to submit their notes, observing sketches, or whatever else they've produced, whatever evidence that they want to establish what the level of their activities have been during the year. So this year, I, of course, had quite a number of images that I believe you've all seen, and as well as that, I did get submissions in the form of notebooks and materials as well. So I was very pleased with that. I'm quite a traditionalist. I like seeing evidence of people's activities. I like seeing that they're, pondering what they're seeing and they're writing down what they see, or they're recording it in some way. So an image is worth 1,000 words, but a notebook with 20,000 words in it scores pretty highly as well. So for this year, the selection is Gordon Webster. So is Gordon here tonight? Gordon, come on down.
She's up there on the slide.
Yes, she is. You bet. All righty. So, Gordon, very impressive notebook that you provided, and your sketches that have been provided for observation sections several times during the year. I think this is very well deserved.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. There you go. All right. And we'll just flip forward. I did a couple of scans of some of the material from his notebook to give you an example of the sort of stuff I was looking at. Very nice work. There we go. So next up, the next award is for the 2011 Presentation of the Year. This award is presented to the person that, in the chair's opinion, has done the best presentation out of all of the meetings for the year. It's, of course, up for question as to what the criteria are, and I have to admit it's quite arbitrary. I generally go by my assessment of the attending audience's approval on the talks, the level of material, and the skills exhibited by the presenter as well. This year I was a little challenged because there were a couple of talks that were quite innovative, different in style, and challenging in some ways, but in the end didn't have a great deal of difficulty in selecting Simon Hanmer for his presentation, Martian Oceans. And I don't believe Simon's in attendance tonight. We'll get this to him, but nevertheless, another plaque for his collection of plaques. So, very well deserved. So next up is the Astronauts Editor's Selection for Astronauts Article of the Year. Deborah's not here tonight to present the award, so I guess I'll go ahead and do so. I wasn't provided with any materials, so Brian McCullough is the selected recipient. Brian, congratulations. And that's for Brian's series of fictional, I assume they're fictional, Brian, articles, Sail Fleet Rubicon, which were presented in the Astronauts over the duration of the year.
Brian got his award at the dinner 2 weeks ago.
That explains why I don't have one here. Thank you, Gary. Alrighty, so as a little segue here, we've got a bit of video to play for you to kind of set the mood for the rest of the meeting. I love it. Very good. Alrighty then. Okay. Carrying on from there, our what's becoming a perennial favorite seems to be turning up every meeting these days is RASC Ottawa Centre members in the news. So for this month, we have Gordon Webster, the recipient of our Observer of the Year award, has turned up on Astronomy Sketch of the Day. My only question is, why didn't I see that sketch in the notes you sent me? But congratulations, Gordon. Well done. Next, please, Chris. Okay, so to bring you Ottawa Skies, Gary Boyle. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, that last little bit of video, if everybody could look at the iPhone for a second. Thank you. Now you forgot everything you saw. I have my own.
Okay.
So the cloudy night report, you'll see we had 6 clear nights. We're getting better. I think 2 months ago we only had 2 clear nights. So it's getting a little better, but of course it's getting colder. So I think this is pretty much the last few weeks they can really enjoy the outdoor adventure. Next slide, please. Okay, some objects in the sky. Of course, we have the Hercules over here with the crooked H setting in the west. M13, beautiful globular cluster. But Comet Gerard is still moving up very slow. And next slide, you'll see its track that it'll be moving up to the side of Hercules. So it meets close to M92, another globular cluster around the 4th of February. But then I think it'll move into the morning sky. So you can see pretty well from week to week, it really moves on. Brightest should be about magnitude 7.4 or 7.3. Just a little under naked eye visibility, but a great Kodak moment. Next slide, please. Here we have the gray square Pegasus, which is very high in the sky now. In fact, my article this month for the Sky this month for the National Society is speaking about the Andromeda constellation. But if anyone, who has not ever seen the Andromeda Galaxy? Okay, well, it is our closest galaxy to us. It's 2.9 million light years away. The easiest way to find Andromeda is to take the square Pegasus, which is very high in the sky, as I just mentioned. Whenever I'm in the country, I always point to this with a laser pointer and mention to people, try to imagine a baseball diamond. We have home, first, second, and third. Well, it'll take 2 steps into the dugout and 2 more steps up in the rows, and then you'll find the galaxy. And it is a naked eye galaxy, almost 3 million light years away in the country. It's a smidgen in the sky without a telescope. And also we'll look at the blue snowball. But first we'll look at Andromeda. Now, in a telescope, Andromeda looks like any other galaxy, just a mess of stars. Has about 400 billion stars, twice as much as our own galaxy. But with very large telescopes, 16-inch scopes up to 20-inch, or maybe 14-inch, with this chart, which is again a link from my monthly article, you begin to see the globular clusters in the Andromeda galaxy, and that's a challenge. That's a challenge to see some. They're mostly around the 15th magnitude stage. Some are 16th. So I'm sure they'd be photographic, but a challenge would be for those who have pristine skies and very large aperture telescopes. Next slide. And the other object, not too far, as I showed you on the chart, is the blue snowball, NGC 7662. It's a planetary nebula, about 5,000 light years away, 50,000 astronomical units wide. Or if you took our solar system, say if our solar system was a loonie, you'd have to line up 833 loonies to actually make the distance, how wide the sky really is. And it's a very dim star between 12th and 16th magnitude. And in a telescope, it does look like Neptune or even Uranus too. It's that bluish color, bluish green. Next slide. And speaking of the Snowball Nebula, of course, we're going to get the winter solstice in a couple of weeks. So you better get your last licks of observing. We had some flaky white stuff this morning, but much more to come for sure. The moon is always a great object to look at. It's nice and high on the ecliptic. The ecliptic rides over Orion, so the moon is very high, especially a full moon, which is, of course, the worst time to look at. But on nights when we get some great transparency, which you look at the clear sky chart, if you look under seeing, that's the turbulence. And if the seeing are those nice dark blue boxes, the air will be very, very still, great for photography and viewing the moon too, because I'm sure many of you have seen the moon, which is this bubbly mess of soup. Next slide. Then on the 14th, we're going to get the Gemini meteor shower. I find this is the best shower of the year. Not because of the numbers, 120 meteors per hour, as seen by a single observer, but the speed. They gracefully move at about 35 kilometers per second, other than the purses that just zip along. See, these are very nice, graceful meteors. And the reasons for that is different meteor showers hit our atmosphere at different angles. The Perseids hit us directly on, whereas the Geminids, they glide by, so they just slowly come in. Very graceful to see, but again, you're getting into cold conditions. So let's hope the weather will hold, but unfortunately, it's 4 days after full moon. Next slide. The International Space Station, if you get on heavensabove.com or on my website, wondersofastronomy.com, and I do have a link for Ottawa. Two of the best apparitions coming this month toward the end, because now all the sightings are in the morning, but starting after December 15th, there'll be evening passes. So the best will be on the 19th and on the 21st. As you can see, they're very high in the sky, 81 degrees almost overhead. And it looks just like a very brilliant Jupiter, but just moving across the sky. That is the space station. Next slide. On the 19th of December, Jupiter will look like it'll have 5 moons. It will not. It will have this Hipparchus, or SIO catalog number, this one right here. I just gave it just a random day using Stellarium. But at this point, Jupiter is 34.5 light minutes away, but the star is 192 light years away. So it just gives you a little three-dimensional to the actual picture looking. So let's hope it's clear that night. Next slide, please. So just a little montage where the planets are. It's in the evening now. It shifts over to the morning sky on the 4th. It'll be at greatest western elongation on the 26th, 22 degrees away from the sun. Now, I said morning sky, but greatest western elongation. You think it should be eastern elongation. But really it's the opposite. It's the western side of the sun which puts it in the morning. So it's always the opposite. So it's not a typo, as I've been known to do in the past. Have you been telling me in the past? Which is great. So whenever you think of the elongation, west is in the morning and east is at night, because it's the side of the sun that it's referring to. Venus is slowly rising in the west, sunset. It's by itself. Mars is in Leo. It's marching east along the stars, so it's really trekking along from week to week. You see, you'll notice the pattern in the sky. Jupiter, visible all night long, but now it's setting at 4 a.m. As Rolf Meyer mentioned a couple of months ago, it's downhill now. Our two planets are moving away from each other, so now it rises, it's well up at sunset and starting to rise early. So still get your elixir if you're going to photograph it. Don't let it get too far, because then you lose some of the detail. Saturn, our ring planet, is back up in the skies, begins to rise around 3:30 in the morning, and is near Spica. In fact, Spica is to the right of Saturn, and they actually rise both at the same time above the horizon, so it's quite dramatic. Uranus is now in Pisces. It's nice and high, and Neptune will be 5 degrees below the small waxing crescent moon on the 28th. Next slide, please. And speaking of the moon, here are the various dates of the phases into next year. And if you're so inclined on distances, because the moon does have an elliptical orbit around the Earth, not a perfectly circular path as it goes around our planet. So we get that 50,000 kilometer variance between 356,000 and 406,000 kilometers from the nearest to the furthest. So we get that bend. Next slide, please. And on the 10th, unfortunately, we will not see the moon the last total eclipse of the moon until the year 2014. In fact, I think it's October 2014, I wrote in my article. This is best seen in the west. So people on the Pacific coast will see the entire eclipse. The penumbra, which is the very outside part of the shadow, really not noticeable. The umbra is that first contact, when the moon moves into the shadow. And that's U1, and see, it's just missing us. So we will not see, the moon will have been set in the morning before the event even happens. But as you move further on west, you will see some portion of the eclipse in motion. But like I said, the west coast is favored for it, if it's clear.
Sorry, what's the date?
The 10th, December 10th. And I'd like to wish you all a very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all the best in 2012. Happy holidays, everyone. A small thing about, of course, we see Kent in the back. Hi, Kent. Kent, Focus Scientific, just to plug, great place, the only telescope shop in town. Sears might be great, Canadian Tire might be great, museum's great here too, but really should stick with a true telescope shop. They do know their stuff. If you like to look for planets or what's your criteria you want to use an instrument for, they'll guide you to that. And they know which end points up. I've seen Canadian Tire where the mirror is actually pointing down, so wrong. And I'd like to take this opportunity also to thank Bill Wagstaff for your great 2 years. He finally wears the tie. It was last night. My 5 as being past meeting chair for 5 years. I got the record still. I wore every meeting pretty well made for 1 or 2 hot ones. I didn't wear my shirt and tie. So thanks for your great 2 years. I know it's like to get the speakers. Sometimes you got to twist some arms to get some talks. And handing on to Chris. Of course, Chris was since, the beginning of time pretty well. You've been doing this since the old slide days. No, I guess you didn't have to do the slides back on Carlton.
It's the first PowerPoint ever.
First PowerPoint ever. Fantastic. So as you can see, we have a great group of people. The volunteers, as mentioned before by Paul, volunteers are always needed, new minds, new thinking of everything. But until now, we're just a fantastic center. So thanks for all your great help. Welcome, Paul, aboard. So I guess you'll be in the shirt and tie next month, Paul?
Guess I better go buy
And Eve, you told me your tie's always in the trunk to wipe off the dipstick, right? That's what he told me. He told me it is. Thanks a lot. Have a great holiday season, and we'll see you next year.
And we're on to observation reports. So this is a segment where we have images, sketches, interpretive dance, whatever people want to do, to illustrate for us what they've been observing over the previous month or months. So to start off with, Paul Commission. Need a mic, Paul?
No, I don't.
You're right, you don't.
NBC 7380, that's in Cephas. There was a nice picture of it that Bob Olson had a couple of months ago. I wanted to show this. This is a 7.2 magnitude open cluster. It's quite easily seen even with a binocular. But the thing is that it's situated in the middle of a nebula called Sharpless 142, SH2 142. And it's the challenge is to try to see the nebulosity. As I said, a 7.2 cluster can be seen easily in a binocular, but seeing the nebulosity is the challenge of this particular object. It's in Cephas, it's at 58 plus 58, so it's circumpolar, you can see it all year round. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. Next, Gordon Webster. Here he is, our Observer of the Year.
Okay, so this first one is, Brian, can you pronounce those for me?
I wouldn't in blank company, no.
Okay, good. And anyway, what struck me on these was the shadow. Which is the one, the center one?
Yep.
Okay. There's a very strong, there we are, mountain peak shadow right in there.
Would it help if we made it bigger?
Okay, it would. Yeah. There was near the, okay, can you go back to the other one? Oh, you took it out. Okay. In the sketch in my book, there was actually up here, there's a star, which was 16 Perseus, which is in the circlet of Perseus. Not Perseus, I'm sorry, Pisces. The scope was 120 refractor at 250 magnification. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is Lacelle 1. If anybody follows Sue French's articles, this is one of the ones she had a couple months ago. And it's a triple-double in Cygnus, up near Zeta Cygni. Magnitudes are between 10.6 and 13.5. And again, that was with a 200 mil Newtonian at 150 magnification. Next, please. This was a neat little one in the Camel. Okay, it's Strove 390 is the bluish primary over here. And what struck me was that the red companion is an unrelated star. The Strove 390 is actually a triple star, but the B and C components aren't visible, and that just happens to be an unrelated reddish star nearby. And near that, totally unrelated pair, where the larger magnitude star is orange and the companion star is blue. Next, please. This next one is Webster 2. Okay, it's an interesting little asterism I found in Cassiopeia near Gamma Cas, and I thought that it looked like a snail. Okay. I have the RA if anybody's RA in deck if anybody's interested, and then the last one.
Send that one to Sue.
I should, yes,
She does asterisms and draws like the toadstool.
yes. That's Webster 1. Yeah, she has one up in Delphin. Yeah, and I had been looking at that and thinking it's got to be somewhere, and I'm looking and looking. I couldn't find anything, and then about 2 months later, it shows up in her article, and she called a French one.
So your Webster 2 will be Webster 1 now.
No.
Did you want me to pronounce these two names?
These I think I can handle. Thanks, Brian. So Atlas and Hercules, they're two deep craters. They're 87 and 71 kilometers in diameter, and Atlas E, which is, where is it? Right in here, is a very shallow crater. It's about 58 kilometers. And that's what struck me, was just how low it looked in comparison to the other two deep craters. And lots of rills and rims. And that's it. Thank you very much. I'll leave that for the next person.
Very good. Next up, Eric to show us some of his latest photography.
Hi everyone. Actually, this is my first photography using a telescope to take a photograph of a celestial object. So I'm a baby. Welcome me to the world of imaging. This is actually the first. Yeah, I know. Okay, all right. Okay. I decided to start with the most simple object you can find, other than the sun, which I haven't tried yet. And I was prompted because last month I won a telescope as a door prize, and I decided let's make some use with this. And I had a bracket, so I put a pocket camera up to the eyepiece. A very crude way of doing things, I found, but it worked, and came up with this image. The very first image was bad. You didn't want to see that one, but this is the first reasonable photograph I came up with. I've also tried to film Jupiter, and I thought, gee, for the very first photograph to take of Jupiter, that's not too bad. And thank you. I didn't know which ones were which. One thing I never realized, because I didn't look it up, but one thing I never realized was how much brighter Jupiter is than the moons, relatively speaking. So it was hard to find a compromise in the exposure. Also, because I'm working with an Omcon 811S, the mount is terrible on that, and focus is very difficult to do. It was a bit of a challenge. But I didn't realize how much you have to work at exposure to get something good, because it's so much brighter than those moons. And those are the two objects that I've done so far. And what I want to do is push the telescope and the camera as far as possible before I go on to some better equipment. And I will be seeing Kent sometime soon for that. And that's it. So, and is Sanjeev here? No? Well, Sanjeev, watch out. Here I come. I'm going to make you eat my dust.
Thank you, Eric. And next up, Bob Olson. Bob, welcome.
Spending money on equipment is a bottomless pit.
Yes, it is.
Be careful. NGC 1893, it's about 12,000 light years away, and it's 100 light years across. The star cluster that you're seeing in the middle there is easy to see, and that's actually the NGC 1893. The big red stuff is IC 410, and it's very, very red.
Well, can I ask you a question about that, about the color?
Yeah.
Do you get that color on your first try through the computer, or what are you getting? Do you have to enhance to get
No. No. I use three filters, red, green, and blue, and I know what the ratios of those are, and so it just comes out. Every once in a while, I'll get a little bit of color in the stars, which, we have to be suspicious are white, and so I'll make a little tiny adjustment to make the stars white. Especially a bright blue star would show up as white. But other than that, no fooling around with the colors at all. Yeah. Well, you won't see that color, though. This is a multi-hour exposure. Yeah. Next, please. Oh, this is, NGC. They talked about 5 or 6 clear days this month, but that's not totally true. There was a pretty bright moon for some of those, and so I stuck an H-alpha filter on my camera. And this is called the monkey head. I have no idea why. And it's about 6,400 light years away. And I plan on doing some color on this. This is strictly hydrogen alpha. This color is a deep red, Coke can red. Okay? Next one. I was just looking around the sky, and I found this object that fit my camera size, the size of my field of view. It's a great reason for taking a picture. And it's SH2-170, and this is a long exposure. It's a couple of hours at least, and it barely showed up. So it must be extremely faint. I want to do some color on this eventually too, in more time. You can see that it's still pretty grainy from the lack of exposure. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you, Bob. Okay, next up, Tom Butterworth to talk to us about his observatory.
Hi, everyone. I live in the South Nation Conservation Area, therefore the name. I built this observatory about 4 years ago. So after 4 winters and many rainstorms, the bottom started to rust out, or not rust out, but rot out. The dome lasted really well, but I had to rebuild it. As well, there's a barn right behind that the farmer had a bright yellow light on all night long. As well, he would occasionally come out and turn on a bright white light on the porch of his house. So I had to move it and I had to rebuild it. And if I was going to do it, how does this move forward?
Right button. If anything, pointed back here. Right button.
Right button? Have I got?
I'll do it there.
There we go. So if I was going to do it again, I decided to do it properly this time. So I set out a list of goals that I wanted to achieve this year. I won't read them out to you. They're fairly straightforward. But I thought it would be a fairly easy project to do, but it turned into a major undertaking.
Okay, I'll do it.
Okay, so the first thing I did was design an adapter for my CGE Pro mount. Next slide, please. These are 1-foot rods that I intended to sink into the concrete pier. Next, please. And I also put down a 3-foot rod down the center to act as rebar through the concrete pier. There's the 8x8 or 8-inch sonotubes, 4 foot long in the back there. And the next thing I toiled with was whether to go above ground or below ground, below grade. So I decided to go below grade. Next, please. And I had a friend with a backhoe come in and level out a 10-foot square section of my property. And I outlined an 8-foot square platform. Next, please. So I had a local post hole company come in. My property is all clay, so I had them drill the holes as well as the center pier. Next, please. And this is what it looks like with the concrete poured and all leveled. My nice level floor is no longer level, so the next thing I have to do is level the floor. So a lot of raking. Next, please. So I pulled out all the clay towards the outside because that's where I wanted all of the support. Next, please. And here's the 4x4s. These are just resting on top of the concrete piers. The little metal brackets are not into the concrete. They're just holding the post in place. Next, please. So next is braced. Forward, please. So the next thing I had to do was build a retaining wall. Because I went below grade, I had to worry about adequate drainage. So I built a retaining wall and had my friend with the backhoe come in and deliver 2 bucketfuls of stone. Next, please. This is what it looks like all leveled. Forward, please. Another view. Forward. So I'm starting to build up the new floor. Again, please. So these are 8 4x4s cross hatch, so 32 cuts. Forward, please. The new floor in place. Now, at this point, I salvaged as much of the old observatory as I could, so basically I ripped off the plywood and used just the skeleton structure. Forward. So this is what it looks like in place as well. I've started to raise the base ring up because I wanted to waterproof it a little better. I also built a new 2x4x8 and used waterproof lumber for it. Forward, please. So here's the CG Pro mount on the pier. I'm getting anxious to get some observing done. I haven't done any this year, and this is already the end of July. You notice I have 3 identical safe lights in the corner. I used to teach digital imaging in hospitals across Canada, and as X-ray departments converted from film to digital imaging, they got rid of their X-ray, or they got rid of their dark rooms. So I managed to acquire 3 identical safe lights. You see the dome still turns on golf balls. Forward, please. This is the dome mounted on top of the structure. This was the hardest part to accomplish. The dome weighs about 250 pounds. So what I did is I have a 12-foot extendable ladder. So we extended the ladder and put the dome on the extended part. I got inside the dome, and 2 of my friends, Patrick Major, one of them, and they guided the dome, and I collapsed the ladder so it just slid up on top of the support very easily. Forward, please. So this is the CGE Pro mount with the 11-inch mounted on top of it. Again, I'm getting anxious to do some observing. I haven't even got the outside covered yet. Forward, please. This is a quick and dirty shot of the moon. It's a 60th of a second exposure at 1600 ASA. Scene was very poor that night, but I just thought I wanted to get something done this year. Forward. Now, I used to lift this section off. Now it just slides back. It's not on rollers or anything. I just push it back. It goes fairly easily. And now I only have to lift off a smaller section at the front here. As well, I've got the dome riser covered. Forward again, please. This is what the observatory looks like now, looking south-southwest. And again, please. So this is as far as I've got this year. I have now started to put flashing around the bottom. I bought some Tyvek to cover the outside to further waterproof it, as well as some vinyl siding, but that's going to wait until next year, until spring. Right now it's covered with tarp, and it's waterproof. So, next photo, please. Now I'm going to talk to Bill about this. The last time I showed a slide here, Bill said, lots of money, lots of money. Invariably, when I get people come over to my observatory, that's one of the questions I get is, how much does this cost? And the question I ask them is, how much does a skidoo cost? How much does a boat cost? How much does a motorcycle cost? It's all relative. I'm a single guy, no wife, no kids, so all my money's spent on myself. So anyway, $5,000 for the scopes, $5,000 for the mount, $5,000 for the dome. And next image, priceless. Thanks very much.
Very nice results, huh? Okay, next up, Sylvie Letourneau to talk to you about Apple applications for astronomy.
After Chris presented astronomy application for the iOS, I was curious to see what was available for my Mac at home. So I went out and looked for the Mac OS and see what the Apple Store had for us. Okay. I was quite surprised. There were only 9. So they're obviously not as popular as the iOS, but nevertheless, we can look at what's there. The first one is called SolarWalk, and it's got a good rating. It's a good price, $2. So, well, cheap. Okay, so it does allow you to do a walk through the solar system. That's all it is. But it's got beautiful graphic, animation, nicely. You can navigate through things. Objects are not necessarily to scale, but there's an option to do so. You can also view things in 3Ds. And where I started to be blown away is how you could compare sizes of objects and start to do a demonstration of what a solar eclipse is, or moon phases, tidal effects, and other things. So I thought it was a great application for kids and educators. So since I'm an educator, I was interested into this. But for observers or professional, maybe not as good. But it was easy to learn. Next is called Cosmographia. And Again, it had a good rating, but it was a little more expensive at $5, $4.99. I didn't try it personally because I use a SolarWalk, but it seems to be doing about the same thing. It is limited to the solar system as well, but it claims that you can see all 500,000 known asteroids. I thought, well, that might be a value. Again, you can make movie as you navigate, and you can also have the 3D option. Now, the last one, I was hoping that Simon would be here and ask him, because I know he's using Macintosh as well, so I thought maybe he would be interested into watching some volcanoes on iOS on that software. Now, next one is called SkySafari. This one, I see a couple of nice things about it. First of all, it has 3 versions. And so you can go basic or plus or pro. Obviously, the price depends on what you get. But then I like this idea because you can move up. But it's a planetarium, as you saw. And I'm trying to go back. So it's a planetarium. And so I started comparing it with Stellarium, which is free. And if we can go forward again, Chris, just to locate you, Stellarium has by default 600,000 stars. So it sits in between basic and plus, but it is free. And then for free, you can download up to, I hear it's 200 million stars. So anyhow, then I lost a little bit my interest for this application and maybe the more expensive versions of them. But one thing is telescope control. So some people might be interested in that, and I can see how that would be a great app if you wish to do so. Next, please. Now, Cosmic Crawler. Poorly rated. Next, please. It's only $2, but it seems that all it is, it's the Celestia application that's been just repackaged and sold. A note here was we're not too sure why that is even allowed in the Apple Store and the App Store. But anyhow, it is there. Unless it's got some hidden value into it, I did not buy it. I didn't see the point, so I can't really say more. But I would not recommend it. The rating is not good to start with on people that have bought it. Next, please. SkyOrb 3D. Not many ratings on that one. It's $2.99. And basically, it's, again, thank you. It's, again, just like Stellarium. You can see the night sky and plan your observing on it. But also, it has a what's called a space view. And the space view allows you to basically move out of the solar system, past Pluto, and see the solar system with the sky behind it. Not sure where's the value in that, but maybe some people would want to see what it looks like. So again, I'm leaning towards using my Stellarium. Maybe I'm old-fashioned. Next, please. Now we're moving on to different applications, the Moon and Mars atlases. And so there are 2 separate applications, just like for the iOS. And next, please. They are priced at $6, but they do bring different value than the planetariums do. And I really like the detailed surface views and also all the information it had and all the physical surface object that it provided, which was quite a lot of them. So I bought those 2, and I like them. It's for your information, but it's good. I have to say, and I don't know if it's just for my iPod, I have an older version of iPod, and my MacBook Air, the graphics on the atlases are really nice. On my iPod, not so good. So maybe it's just me. Maybe the iPhone would be better. But that was not a waste of my money. Next, please. And I like the Moon, so yeah. So this is priced as $11.99, so $12. I'm not doing as much observing as I'd like to, so I didn't buy it, sorry. And it doesn't have much ratings, but it seems to be designed to help and plan organize observing. It seems to be full of feature and quite complex, so I'm sure maybe some of you would be interested in that. And by all means, if you ever have it and want to comment on it or give me some feedback, that'd be great. Next, and last one, yeah. Again, not many ratings, but if we can go to the next slide and see that the current price is $39.99 for a application that you buy on the Apple Store. It's pricey, so I did not go and buy it. It seems to be, from what I can get from information I can get from the Apple Store, it's sophisticated and it's designed to help observing as well. But and it includes like telescope control, but with voice command. So telescope, go there. Okay, so that's that's for the Equinox. So in summary, there are some good applications. For the Mac OS, it's very limited. Maybe there's not as much interest as the iOS. It's much easier to bring your iPod, your iPhone, or your iPad to your dome and work on your observing nights. And then, well, if you have a Mac and you go on Google and you browse, you find other good applications, Stellarium being one of them and being free. Voila. And yeah, time will tell if there will be more. And I'll leave that to Chris, who will tell us hopefully about the iOS. Thanks.
Thank you. Good. Thank you, Sylvie. And to finish off, I guess, this evening, Chris is here with an update for us, the third in the series on astronomy applications for iPhone and iPad.
Thank you, Bill. As he's just mentioned, I gave 2 talks early this year on applications for the 3 devices they've just mentioned, the iPod Touch, the iPhone, and the iPad. And as Sylvie's already said, while there's a few available for Macs, there are virtually hundreds available for the 3 platforms that I've just described. And when I heard that Sylvie was doing a talk on Apple applications, I thought I'd just go back and see what's happened in a few months, and I was amazed that there's a lot more programs. I could do this talk every month and there'd always be more of them, but there was a few that caught my eye that I thought may be of interest to people, so I thought I would just sort of really update the talk with a few new ones. Mm-hmm. People have been having trouble with this. I can see why now. Its battery must be low. Were you even doing that? Yeah. So a surprise here in that star charts by Will Teron have been around for a long time, very popular, and they've just been made available for the iPad. Okay, next. The first screen that you get on an iPad, they divide the sky into these 18 different charts, and obviously you can manually touch on any one of these to go wherever you want in the sky, or as good apps do on these devices with the internal GPS and inclinometer, you know exactly where the device is pointing. So with these star charts, if you simply point to the right place in the sky, it knows to jump to the right chart and knows where you're looking. Next. And here's an example of one of those 18 charts. It only goes to 6th magnitude, but for finding your way through the sky and having something so portable in your hands, I think that's adequate. Next. And it comes with the normal search features so that you can search out individual constellations or stars, or as I said, simply point to the right place in the sky. So nice to see a well-known series of star charts adapted to the iPad now. Next. Great program by NASA on the sun. If you can just go to the next one. Like so many of these programs, it starts with the latest news, in this case from NASA, on events on the sun. This includes the ability to push notices to you, so if you want to know that there's been a CME today and tonight might be a good time for aurora, that'll come automatically as a text message on your device. Next. Then it downloads daily a full 360-degree view of the sun. I can't do it, you won't see it here, but if you could take your figure like any device and simply start twirling the sun, you can zoom in and look at any part of the sun, and it has labeled the active sunspots. Next. And it comes with a fascinating catalog of solar images that they've taken. Next. You heard Sylvie mention Stellarium. I think someone else mentioned tonight. Again, a very popular computer-based astronomy program, and it's now available for the iPad. I don't have it. There's only so many I was able to buy, and I've got so many of them already. So I just did some screen captures here from the store, so you can go next, just to show you the typical types of screens that you get on any planetarium program on an iPhone or an iPad. Next, or the more traditional. So for those who really like Stellarium, now you can bring it out into the field. Next. Interesting that Celestron brought out a planetarium program. If I read the material on it on the store, it sounds fantastic. I bought it, went into it, and to me it's charging 99 cents too much. Found it useless. And I got mad at it right at the beginning when it brought up, as it should, a daytime screen. Whatever time of day I was looking at it, I said, no, I want to see what's on tonight. No, can't do that. It only shows you what's available now. I suppose if you take it out at night, and as some of the programs I've said are so good for backyard observing, if you want to hold it up and say, yeah, that's the Big Dipper, it looks actually really well done. But that first fundamental flaw got me turned off, and I didn't go very far.
I'm assuming that if you reset your time, it's not actually using the machine time, it's using something off of cell towers.
I don't know. It's a good question. Whether I could have forced the time on the iPad to whatever I want. I wasn't willing to go back and go into settings and change the time, so I moved on. It feels to me like potentially a really good program, and this at best might be a beta version. It's not ready for market, but they put it out. So just to summarize the two long talks I gave and these few updates with just what I would, if I were starting from scratch, and what I would want to put on an iPad. The three primary programs I talked about at length before, StarWalk, which is associated with the SolarWalk you see in the bottom corner that Sylvie just talked about. But something I've recommended to a lot of people, particularly public outreach programs, for an average backyard astronomer who wants to be able to hold up an iPad and say, that's the Big Dipper and where's Jupiter, it's outstanding. It quickly gets thin and for serious observing. But SkySafari, again, a well-known computer-based planetarium program, by far the best on iPads and iPhones. And I noticed a review like that in either Astronomy or SkyIntel even this month, saying it was by far the best. And the Moon Globe that Sylvie showed a similar version, outstanding. And then I just put it across the bottom again, some of the fun ones I've reviewed in the past two talks that I think are worthy of having. But hundreds out there, but these ones seem to be to really impress me. Mm-hmm. Gary. I put Sky Clock down there, and there's two Clear Sky Clock. There are two ways of doing it on any of these devices. My own preference is not to use an app. Simply surf the web and go to the Clear Sky Clock. It works beautifully. But as some people have told me, that doesn't work if you're going to, for instance, Nirvana, where there may not be cell coverage. So if you want to be able to take it with you, there is an app that you can get. It's not as good as going onto the website, but it's a simplified version, and you can then store it before you go out to site and take it with you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the Teron star chart's available just for your computer?
I don't know.
Your phone is just a telephone, but you have a computer.
Generally, these apps are only work, as Sylvie said, on the iOS system. So they only work on the iPhone, iPad, iPod. You can't buy the same program and make it run on a laptop or a computer. Mm-hmm. But the fact they've made it available here would make me lead to believe that it'd be available for other formats as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Well, now that brings us to the end of the talks for the evening. Just a few items of business before we go on. One, as a part of the increased concentration and effort that the museum has been putting into astronomy right now, the decision has been made to make the RASC Observer's Handbook available from the bookstore, the gift shop here in the museum. So as we all know, those who are paid up members of the RASC get a copy of this in the mail every year. It's one of the benefits of membership, and if you're interested, it's pretty much worth the price of admission by itself. But if you aren't a member, or if you know people who are not a member but would like to have a copy of this, here's an easy source to be able to just buy one over the counter rather than having to do the usual RASC, order it through the website and wait for it to come in the mail. Estelle's Pick of the Month from the Stan Mott Book Library. This classic and very popular book, Hidden Treasure, out of the Deep Sky Companion series. Recommend popping in if the library is open after the meeting and check it out if somebody hasn't already snatched it up before you. Next, please. Okay, the plan is for public observing for the winter solstice, Wednesday. Now, didn't somebody else say December 22nd tonight? Oh, this is the night of the 21st. Yes, okay, fair enough. That's here on the premises, the observatory out front, Helen Sawyer Hogg Observatory. This is one of the volunteer events, and I was asked to mention, as you may or may not remember, that the museum has got a new policy with regard to volunteers, that sort of thing. So if you are interested in volunteering for that event, as opposed to just coming in as a visitor and observing, Mike has got some forms that can be filled out. They just need to be processed. It takes about 10 days to go through the museum. And then you're cleared for the next 10 years for volunteer work. So I know a lot of people have already filled out, but if you were thinking of volunteering to come out and help with the event, just a reminder, you need to make sure that paperwork's taken care of. Next, please. Okay, so as usual, post-meeting entertainment. Is Estelle here? Yes. Well, sorry, here, I mean, is she, I was going to ask her if the library was open. But if she's not sitting here, she's probably there. So I would say the Stan Mott Book Library is open. It's just outside the doors here on the right. Pop into the office and take a look at what books we have available. The Ted Bean Equipment Loan Library. Al Scott is not here tonight. However, I'll remind you the policy now is the equipment is not in his basement. It's out, or it is intended to be out. So the way the system works is that there's a catalog. If you're interested in borrowing a scope for some period of time, you ask Al for the catalog, you pick which one you're interested in, you place a request for it, and we retrieve it from whoever's got it at the time. Yes, Gary?
There's actually pictures on the Ottawa Center website.
Good, okay. So that's where the catalog got placed, is it? Okay, wonderful. So if you understand, is it kind of clear? The way it works now is that the loans are essentially permanent up until somebody else asks for it. So, effectively, you get a telescope for cheap, right?
Whoever rents it becomes a warehouse.
Yeah, that's basically it. But I'd rather you didn't put it that way, right? But nevertheless, that's the story. Is you pay a basic rental fee to the center, and it stays with you, of course, for some minimum amount of time. I'm not sure of the details, but basically it stays with you until somebody else asks for it, and that could be the rest of your life. Gary?
I think 5 months.
Yeah. Is that the minimum? Yeah, okay. Which is a pretty good deal, right? Okay. So coffee and conversation up front, courtesy of Art and Ann Fraser. As well, I see Art's running around with a big fistful of membership cards, so I guess a parcel of them came in. If you're expecting yours in, you've renewed online and you're just waiting for your cardboard evidence of membership, Art's probably got it in his hot little hand and ready to hand it to you. Let me see now. So you can talk to Art about membership as well. We haven't seen Stephen McIntyre tonight, but there are discounts on what do you call those? Subscriptions. Subscriptions, that's the word. There are discounts available to members on subscriptions to Sky and Tel and Astronomy magazines, both of them. But to get the discount, it has to go through a representative of the club, of the center. That representative is Stephen McIntyre. So if you are thinking of either subscribing or renewing a subscription to either of those magazines, if you contact Stephen and go through him, you'll get the discounted rate for center members. Other than that, I would remind you the remainder of the museum is closed, so please don't wander off into the rest of the museum on a private tour. Save that for the daytime. The lobby is okay for us as well. Reservation, as usual, has been made at Kelsey's. Drop in, join the group for snacks, drinks, etc. Big thank you. Tonight's attendance, 82. It's quite a low. We haven't seen it this low for a while, but then it is AGM, so what do you expect, right? Yeah. Many thanks to the organizers and speakers. That Wagstaff guy, yeah. Paul Cloninger, Chris Teron, Paul Harrison, Hans Brauer, Mike Mogadam, Jim Maxwell, Gary Boyle, Paul Commission, Gordon Webster, Eric Kuyala, Bob Olson, Sylvie Latourneau, and Tom Butterworth, and also to our host, the Canadian Science and Technology Museum, who allow us the use of this lovely theater. Okay, next meeting is on Friday, January 6th. You will have a new, as you'll note at the bottom, meeting chair at that time, and so comes the time for handover of the, yes. As I say, goodbye and thanks for all the fish. And it's time for, is Paul here, the handover of the instrument of office. Official ceremony. There we go.
Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you, Paul. It's, well, I guess I'd say a last few words. The last 2 years has been a heck of a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed standing in as your meeting chair, and I'd have to say many thanks to Chris Teron. The reality is that the meeting chair is just window dressing over the real guy. He's the guy behind the curtain that's making this happen, and it wouldn't work without Chris. But nevertheless, thank you for the opportunity to stand in as your meeting chair for a couple of years. It's been a very enjoyable experience.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome, Paul. All right. And I guess that's a good night.